I know, and people that are my family and people that are close to me would say they know that I'm better suited to being self-employed. Although there are downsides, I guess maybe you could say, like at times there's certain levels of uncertainty about the future, and it's not for everyone to take a business coach on. I'm 7 years in or whatever, and decided to just do it now. But it's a broader shift, I guess, about how you look at your business and how you operate.
So what is the biggest upcoming thing in marketing that's not AI?
Oh, Lord.
Hey, everyone. Big thanks for supporting the podcast. We really do appreciate it. If you want to hear more from us, hit the subscribe button or press the bell icon for future updates.
I'm Marc Rhodes. I'm the founder of Marc Rhodes Marketing. I'm an e-commerce consultant, first and foremost. I have clients across a sort of range of different types of business, but primarily direct-to-consumer e-commerce is my specialism. So helping brands that are anywhere from startup to, could be 7-8 figure brands with their e-commerce strategy is what I specialise in.
Amazing. So this is a profound question, but how e-commerce consultant sounds cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
a cool
cool.
job. How have you got to this level? How have you got to becoming an e-commerce consultant?
I guess sort of by accident. So I stumbled into marketing, not on purpose really. So I did sports science at university.
Oh, yeah.
And there's not that many opportunities to become a sports scientist in the country. Like I went to Aberystwyth University. There was 90 of us on the course, and we all graduated at the same time looking for sports science jobs. And there's not 90 going in the country. Do you know what I mean?
That's crazy. Yeah. There's quite a lot of degrees like that. I think in marketing, a classic one for us is like fashion marketing or fashion design, and there's just not that many jobs in it.
No, but then there's an element of those sort of subjects, creative subjects or sports subjects that kind of lend themselves to marketing. Often you'd be quite an extroverted
100%,
person.
yeah.
There's an element of kind of the science element requires like a level of ability in data analysis and that sort of thing. So there are parallels, but it is a bit of a leap. So I decided that I just wanted to work in sport after that. And my first job was in a county sports partnership, then called Active Lincolnshire now. And basically, I was organising sports events, and that became events and marketing. And then that's how my marketing career progressed. I realised that sport, although it's my passion outside of work, wasn't necessarily going to be the way to make a successful career for me.
Yeah.
So then I just sort of worked my way through various different businesses. So I started at the county sports partnership. I went to then work at a private school as marketing manager.
Did you?
Yeah.
So did you go from that to working at a private school as a marketing manager?
So 7 years doing sports events and marketing, and then realised that I had gone as far as I could really in the sports industry. An opportunity came up to just create a new marketing team at the private school in Lincoln, and I just thought I would go for it because I needed a change, and I did that for a couple of years. Really interesting. Travelled all over Europe doing that, international recruitment and stuff, which was really great. And established a marketing strategy for them for the first time. And it was really successful. But again, then I got another offer. I joined a care charity, and I was only there for a year. It was horrendous, to be fair. As anyone that's familiar with the care sector will know, it's a hard sector for the people who are actually delivering the care. But to be the commercial person in that environment didn't sit right with me.
Right.
So I didn't do that for very long. I then had a brief stint at an architecture firm. Fair to say we didn't get on particularly well. They let me go after 5 months, and then
was that as in a marketing role?
Marketing manager, yeah. And we just had different ideas on the way that things should be done.
And that can happen,
which is fine. So I thought then, right, that was 2019, and I thought the quickest way to get back on my feet is to just do my own thing. So I started my business for the first time as like a side project, probably in like February 2018. I was helping my friends with if they were athletes or musicians or whatever they might be, just like with their basic marketing stuff. And so that was running in the background. I had a podcast at the time as well.
Nice, early adopter.
Yeah, so I started a podcast in 2019. That was all about Lincoln and business in Lincoln. And
how many episodes did you get?
I did 22 episodes.
Did you? 22?
And then COVID hit, and I stopped doing it because I didn't really want to do it over Zoom. So that's why it stopped, and I just never brought it back because sort of priorities had shifted. So after I left the architecture firm, I secured a consultancy contract with Visit Lincoln. That was my my sort of first big consultancy contract. That was doing like business development and partnerships with a marketing slant. And I did that alongside some other clients until March 2020. COVID hit.
Yeah.
And rightly so, like VisitLink and cutting their cloth accordingly.
Yeah.
And
it was just so volatile, wasn't it? Yeah.
So, I lost probably 70% of my work overnight. Managed to keep the business going for 6 months. And when I say business at this point, I mean, it's it's not a very tangible thing at this point. It's early days. Yeah. But I kept going for a bit. And in the end, I think it was October 2020, I just thought, right, I'm going to have to get a job because we don't know when this is going to end. And I joined an e-commerce web development agency and beyond, which is how we met.
Yeah.
And I was there for, I think, 18 months. And that's where we use that boom in direct-to-consumer e-commerce and subscription businesses to really grow the business. So I was the 4th person to join that team. We grew to 11 within 18 months, trebled the turnover because of this early adoption of subscription e-commerce stuff. And but I always had an eye on going back to do my own thing, despite I loved the fact I loved working there. It was great.
Yeah.
But I always wanted to do my own thing.
Yeah. You got kind of a taste for it.
Yeah, exactly.
And the circumstances at the time.
And then when the time was right in July 2022, I went back to do my own thing full time, rebranded. So it's now,
Has it been that long you've been doing it full time?
Nearly 3 years now. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I've just not looked back since then, really. So niche down, I think, is the key there. So before it was like, I'm a marketing consultant, and I would probably at the time in 2018, 19, and even early 2020 would have taken on anything. But I actually developed a real passion for direct to consumer e-commerce during that time, and because it's quite. I find it really exciting to with any sort of e-commerce. You can see the needle moving immediately.
Yeah,
you guys have a sense of this as well here because you're doing the ads and stuff. But you can really see what you're doing to make an impact. And there's we know what all the key metrics are to move the needle for each individual client. Yeah. I just find that really fascinating.
It is really interesting. I've seen when we've done a particular campaign or over a weekend or something, and we've come back to work on a Monday to see how it's performed. And it's like, oh yeah. When it's worked really well, it's like, oh, that's great. You almost get a buzz off it to some degree. Whilst in B2B, generally you're waiting for things to happen over a longer period of time.
Yeah.
And generally when the leads come through, they're for higher net value. So the buzz is more if a client gets a really good quality lead that they're then pursuing. And that's how it differentiates from our perspective. But yeah, B2C is just you can just see the results almost instantly.
I love it. And you get exposed to a lot of cool brands as well, especially because I do a lot of food and beverage stuff. I've done a lot of work
cheese.
with... Yeah, I've got cheese.
Nail the cheese company.
Surprise Shirts, who are a mutual client of ours. I know Louis been on here. I've been working with Louis for 4 years.
Yeah.
And
you've been working with him for 4 years and he's still 20 years old.
I know, what a guy. Honestly, it's crazy, isn't it?
What the hell?
Yeah, he's amazing. And you just, because of the variety of clients that I've got, it's really exciting. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
Some of the brands I've worked with over the years, Artisan Drinks I've worked with, Beans Coffee Club, Smoothie Box, which are a company over in the US. Exciting brands to work with. And I find that kind of gets me excited about doing the work as well. It's just being exposed to that different range. Food and beverage brands and fashion, sports, apparel, whatever, lend themselves to cool, exciting work, don't they? There's fun stuff to do. So I just really enjoy it. And then having worked with so many all the way from startup to Smoothie Box had 7,000 subscribers at one point, all paying quite a lot to get their monthly box of smoothies. So you pick up a lot of different strategies that you can then apply to whatever stage people are at. They can be adapted, and what works.
Yes.
And so that's
you start to see trends, don't you? And you start to pick up little things that has worked on one client, and you think, chances are this is...
Yeah.
If we can replicate this in a way, it's probably going to have similar results.
Yeah. And so you can't always... It's not one size fits all, and I don't really agree with best practices necessarily.
Yeah.
But we know the things that move the needle in e-commerce, which is your conversion rate, average order value, and customer lifetime value. And if you can find a way to manipulate all those three things, or at least one of them, then you're probably going to be on a path to growth. And when we're working with you, if you can find a profitable cost per acquisition on whatever platform they're advertising on, all of a sudden you're ready to rock and roll. And that's that's an exciting thing to help people discover what that might look like. So a lot of the work that I initially do with clients will be mapping out what I call their e-commerce ecosystem. So zooming out from homepage to checkout, which is what traditionally people would focus on, looking at everything that makes up what contributes to their conversions, and seeing where we can what we can improve and how, and you know, and helping them decide where to spend the money.
Yeah,
that's a huge thing that we, you know, with a lot of the clients we've worked on together, it's like deciding where to spend the money.
Yeah, and sometimes budgets are limited, so then it's making sure that we're spending the money in the right place. Hopefully, if that works, then they'll be more confident in spending more budget, and then we can scale that.
Because you could go after all those channels at once and
badly,
not doing well. So, but it's all about finding the right channel that, like, you know, with any marketing principle, the right audience, all that sort of stuff. But it's just really interesting thing to be involved in and just be exposed to lots of different brands.
So during this period, you also became a dad as well.
Yes, yeah.
So I know firsthand how challenging that's been to try and weave parenthood into my life, and we've actually texted quite a lot.
Yes, yeah, we did. I think we speak more about our daughters. You've got a son as well, but like, because our daughter's about the same age.
Yeah, our daughter. I think Alden's slightly.
She's 3.5.
Yeah.
So we text a lot about that, don't we?
Yeah.
So Alden,
especially in the early days when you're in the trenches.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Alden was born in September 2021. So she was probably about that'd be 9 months old when I went back to being full-time self-employed.
So that's quite a big risk, isn't it? You must have felt... Did you feel like it was a risk, or did you still back yourself and felt like...
I felt confident doing what I was doing. Because the agency I was at the time were due to be acquired by an agency that I now collaborate with. And so Chris, who runs Mugo Agency, the agency I'm mentioning there, basically asked if I would be interested in going to work with him. Which I said yes to. We've been working together now nearly 3 years.
Yeah, doing some really good collaborative work.
Yeah, some great stuff there. He's involved with Superfly Shirts as well, and a few other joint clients. So that was like a bit of confidence to be like, you know, I can do this. And that gave me a bit of a platform to grow from there.
De-risked it a little bit because you realised that there was a baseline to go off. Yeah,
but I'd also been in the office building that I'm in now. So I've moved from I'm in a co-working space, but I'm in an office now as opposed to the co-working area. Yeah, but I've been in there for 6 months, I think, before making the leap back to self-employment. And again, sort of like post-COVID, making those personal connections again. That's a big part of how I've grown the business, is all through referrals and the network I've built over the years. So yeah, I thought it was a risk, but I was also in a fortunate position that my wife at the time was, you know, returning to work and had just got a new job, and we both decided that we could work 4 days a week, and each of us could have a day with Auden, whilst also, and you know, self-employment allows you that flexibility.
It does, yeah.
So even now,
although then you feel guilty for doing everything.
Yeah.
You're like, oh no, I should be working. Oh no, I should be looking after my kids. Oh no, I feel like you get pushed and pulled in so many directions, because that autonomy then means that you then make the decision of how you spend your time.
Yeah, you have to be quite disciplined with that, and it is a challenge. So I still work 4 days a week. I don't work Fridays. I have every Friday with Auden, and it is amazing. I know I won't regret that decision when she starts school. She starts school in 2026, and so I know I've got like either that timeline of getting to spend those days with her is ticking down all the time.
Andy Steele, our accountant, I think he said something that kind of stuck with me. It's something like, you'll never regret spending more time with your kids. Yeah,
well, I think I may have even seen that clip. I do have this, you know, it's not really a debate because I want to do that with Auden. It's really important to me. But you're obviously making a decision to reduce your earning potential and also sort of be offline 20% of the week. And I'm quite fixed on that. Like, unless I really have to do a meeting or something on that day, I'm quite lucky to have a big support network around with my family and stuff, can step in and help if I need them to. But I try and be really rigid with, I'm just not working on Fridays. I won't be answering calls. Won't be doing emails or anything. I'll be focused on spending that time, and that's a finite amount of time, right? She'll start school in 2026, and then that time with her will be gone. And then if I want to, I could start working 5 days a week again. Yes. The dream scenario is that I'll have been doing it for 5 years at that point, working 4 days a week, and maybe I'll decide to carry on doing that. To sort of try and strike that work-life balance that everyone's after. Yeah. But, you know, that's a decision for then, I suppose. But, yeah, I'm really committed to that sort of spending that time with her.
Which is great. And is often, especially with, like, self-employed people, I suppose we could say that. But the guys who are doing the podcast as well have got young children. And I think having that attitude is almost kind of unique to our millennial. Are we millennials?
Yeah, we are.
Because like my parents, like it was completely different. My dad had just like he was still is a great dad. Like my memories of him are always like being such a good like father, but he worked so hard.
Yeah.
And I suppose from my perspective, I'm still trying to figure out like what have I taken from that, but also how am I living that in a modern way? Because it's impossible to. I feel like because generally both partners work generally in our society, we've got to figure that out. It's different, isn't it? It's a different world, and it's not the same. It's not as binary as wife stays at home, husband goes to work, and we're all still trying to figure that out. And I feel like
definitely. It is a hard balance to strike. And when my ex-wife went back to work, she was traveling half the week, right? So that's a thing in itself, right? A huge thing for her to have to go away and go back to work when it involves so much travel, and then also for me to adapt and do my business the way I was doing it, and also be parenting half the week. But we made it work, and and we continue to do so, even though we're not together anymore. We're
which
co-parenting,
is great.
We're still great friends, and Auden lives with me half the time and with her mum half the time, and
it's really good. It's really good. I don't mean this in a patronising way. It genuinely is good that you've figured that out, because I've seen it. I don't know what it is about getting to this age when. Like, I don't know whether you're approaching 40 and we're like in divorce era. There's quite a few people around me, close kind of friends, are going through breakups, and there's kids involved, and it can get really...
Yeah, it can. I've seen it happen.
It can get really horrible at times, and no one wants that really. It's stressful for everyone, I think. So,
definitely. Yeah, it's as much as it can. We've come out the other side, and still get on and still able to co-parent really effectively, and still be able to both choose to work 4 days a week, which I realise is a privileged position to be in. Like, it's not an option for everybody, but we've managed to make it work. So it's good. But obviously, as we've said there, it takes a lot of discipline and balancing of priorities to make it happen.
Yeah. So do you set hours, or do you kind of work quite flexibly with that? Because for me, I've like go to work, come back from work. I used to work like when I was starting off, I'd work like crazy hours really. But my wife, she was working kind of away really, so she was working like Whitby. It's like 2.5 hour drive sometimes there and back. So she's getting at like 8. So I was just like, well, might as well sit here and work. Like, But I mean, obviously that's completely different when you got kids. But then with children, I found that I needed to put the boundaries in place from a working hours perspective, but then allow myself, and I learned this the hard way, by sometimes I would leave the house and I'd be like, and Tony was really struggling to start off with as well, as I was when we had Ellis. And sometimes I'd leave and I just didn't need to leave because I felt like I had to go to work because that was my almost natural default. I need to work to earn money in order for this family to carry on. But in the reality, I could have just stayed 15 minutes and just made sure that everything is all right. Because if Turner's all right, I'm all right. Yeah. The kids are all right. Like, and I think that, but for me, I've needed that now. I've needed the binary 9 to 5, and I very, very rarely do anything on an evening because I'm knackered. That's part of it. So especially the weeks where Auden is living with me, it's really difficult to come downstairs having done the whole tea time, bath time, bedtime, and then be like, get your head back into work. I can barely watch TV.
I know, right? So you've maybe got like, if everything goes smoothly, you've maybe got an hour and a half, 2 hours to yourself. Yeah. And I'm really not thinking at that point, I want to really open the laptop back up.
Some guys I get like, I say guys, it usually is dudes to be fair, men. They're like emailing me like 10 p.m. I'm like, what? I can't, for me, I'm asleep.
Yeah,
I'm either asleep. I'm either actually awake, and asleep mentally, or I'm actually physically asleep. But I don't know whether that's just my brain. It needs those binary like working hours for me to function.
I used to be a lot more keen on getting downstairs and getting the laptop back open and things like that. But I've tried to cut that down now, and I generally would go into the office early on the weeks where I'm not parenting. I generally would get into the office quite early because I wake up early, so I just get in and without getting, I'm not getting down the high performance podcast route here of like the world class basics of waking up early and working hard.
Wake up at 3:30.
I don't do any of that. But like just because I'm awake, I try and just get started with the day, and then that gives you the scope. Then I get to the back end of the day to relax a bit more.
Yeah. But I suppose that means that when you get up early, you end up tired earlier.
Yeah. But I try not to. I don't want to burn out, right? So I've got more conscious over the last couple of years of not just working all the hours that are available to you because you feel like you should be doing it, because it's equally important to switch off.
And it's hard to
really hard
to get your head around that, isn't it?
Yeah,
because
it is.
I think as someone who like I run a business, but you run your own business as well. And to be fair, it's probably harder for you as well because your time is literally your money to some degree. So then you're like, I mean, do I work? Do I not work? Do I not work?
Different stresses, I suppose. Like I don't envy like the position you're in of like having a huge team. It might happen in the future, but like I imagine that involves a lot of stress.
It has done, yeah.
And whereas I like obviously to rely on myself, which again is a different kind of pressure, I suppose. But it's realizing that you can't be effective all the time. Just because you're at your desk or whatever doesn't mean that you're being effective while you're working, and you need that time to sort of de-stress, decompress. Like that Friday with my daughter is amazing for that.
Yeah,
but I have to work at that as well to not be thinking I should be checking my phone and stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
And I know we've both been guilty of that because we were texting each other a couple of weeks ago while we were both out doing stuff. But you can fall back into it. But generally, I'm quite
taking photos of our current situation.
Live scenes from like the park or whatever.
Yeah.
But
the toy kitchen.
yeah. But yeah, it is a constant thing to work on, of not just sort of running yourself into the ground and feeling like you have to be working all the time.
Yeah.
And I do have to constantly remind myself of that, because you can slip into, especially when you're really busy.
I feel like stress sometimes when you don't check. You don't realise how stressed you are. You end up trying to fix the stress by working more when that's actually causing you more stress.
Yeah.
And then I feel like when I'm stressed anyway, I make worse decisions and I am way less productive. Because I'm constantly thinking about the things that are stressing me out. So it's like a perpetuous cycle of pain.
Yeah. But it's taken, I've had the business in some form for 7 years, not always been doing it full time, but it's taken ages to get to a point where I don't, and it's all you're always going to be constantly learning. I don't feel like I've mastered it by any stretch of the imagination.
And that's the main thing, though, isn't it? You're having that mindset of constantly learning. Because if you don't learn from your mistakes, then you kind of fucked, really, aren't you?
Yeah. And I've quite lucky being in the office setup that I've got. Like, it's a co-working space. There's a lot of people doing a very similar thing to me, either as being self-employed or agency owner, whatever it might be. A lot of people that you can share those experiences with, and you and I do it as well. Most of the time by text, just because of the bit more distance. But and you realise that everyone's dealing with these same things, right? Whether it's parenting or whatever it might be. It's just good to share those experiences and realise that everyone else is going through it too. And well,
there's nothing worse than holding on to stuff as well that you like, that are problems that are stressing you out as well. Because often even just talking about stuff can help. I feel.
It does for sure. And having that community around you, like I couldn't work from home. That's why I got the desk in the co-working space in the first instance.
I'm the same. I really don't like working from home.
I'm easily distracted, but also I like being around people.
Yeah.
And so going from having always had a job where there was quite not massive teams, but a relatively big team and people you would be able to bounce off throughout the day, to then to then choose to work from home once I went back to being full-time self-employed in 2022. I didn't want to do that because I just like to be around people, and that's a huge part of, as I mentioned earlier, how I've grown my business is by having those connections with people,
networking,
I just like to be surrounded by people you can even just ask advice from, or just
lean in a little bit,
for sure,
to help what you're doing, So you've got to. What's does the future look like? Have you got any idea, or have you got any plans, or is it just kind of like keep going with it and grow it until?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not I'm not dead set on which way it's going to go, to be honest. The consultancy practice model that I've got now I feel is being really successful.
Yeah.
And like we get to work together on quite a few projects, and I've got that same relationship with, a raft of different services, whether that's like web development, design, ads, like you guys do. And that's almost like a agency model without having to grow the team out. And
Yes.
but also we're not, it works both ways, and we can refer work to each other, but we don't have to always be working on stuff, and we come together for the projects where it works. But I'm not against like the idea of maybe growing an agency in the future or whatever that might be. But right now, the consultancy model has worked, and
It's working,
for my way my life is as well outside of work, it works really, really well.
Yeah.
And gives me like the flexibility I need. And the ability to kind of work with lots of different clients and just be exposed to lots of different brands. So this model works really nicely, and I really enjoy the work that I do. And I've got a range of sort of the commitment to each different client is totally different. I've got some clients that I work with 1 day a month, and it's purely consultative, or I've got other clients like the Shopify agency I mentioned, Mugo, who do amazing work, and I do, I do what I do, but for their clients too. And that's a much bigger commitment. So it's
you've got a good variation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that makes it interesting on a monthly basis, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It sounds like you're doing great. So it's good to hear.
Yeah, it's really positive. It's not a given, and it takes a lot of work to have got into this position, I think. But it's that time put into building that network over time. I've never been a great one for actually going to networking events, but like more like developing relationships. I know we actually met through a networking group. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, we did actually. Didn't
it was an online one during COVID.
How weird.
Yeah. I don't think that was the right fit for either of us really, but so I've never been a big one for networking groups, but I am. We established that connection then, and have like sort of become mates really since then. So that's the part I really enjoy about what I do, is I get to work with so many different people and generally become friends. Like, a lot of my clients and partners, I would say, are friends.
Yeah, that's nice.
And then you're just collaborating with people you get on with. And,
I said that about like, there's always been this kind of culture, or this like you shouldn't be like best friends with who you work with, or you shouldn't be, I don't know, your employees or something. I don't really kind of see it like that, but. I'm friends with the majority of people in that room. In fact, probably everyone. Yeah. So, they're all great, and I respect them as people, as team members alike. So it's nice that, isn't it? And that helps. It just makes your day better.
There you go. Yeah. It's just easier. Yeah, if you're all on the same page, not necessarily on the same page, but if you all get on, you're starting on a positive, aren't you? And it's just great to have that ability to, because of the sort of setup of the environment that I work in. There's so many different people around, all working towards their own thing, but also with like shared experience and stuff. So yeah,
great. Okay, cool. Well, I think you've done an amazing job in building your like this cool consultancy business, and I think a lot of people would want that, or like the idea of that. So if I've got a few little quick questions. Okay. There might not be quick answers.
All right.
But I just wanted to, ask you a few questions about maybe, freelancing, and see if anyone can maybe benefit from your advice.
Yeah.
If anyone's kind of thinking about starting up a business or freelancing. So first thing, what is the best thing about running a business / freelancing?
I would say the flexibility it offers for me. That's probably the primary thing. The ability to choose when you work, but also choose who you work with to an extent. Yeah. Sometimes we've all got to keep the lights on them. Sometimes you'll take a project on that you might feel is not the best fit in the early days, but I'm in a fortunate position now to not say like I'm picking and choosing the work, but I got one example I always use is I got approached by a company in the US called Gun Prime.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and they describe themselves as the Amazon for guns, right? And that didn't sit well with me. Head's going up over there. Then.
Yeah.
And basically, you go onto their site, and it's like any e-commerce store, but it's like 15% off the latest AR-15 or whatever it might be, and I'm like that doesn't sit with me. I can't do that.
Yeah.
So I generally. if I meet a brand and I get on with them and I think we can do good work together, I would like to do it. But for me, that was like a line in the sand where I'm like, I can't help sell
Got
more
to align your values.
arms,
Right? That I designed and probably used to kill people.
So that wasn't for me. But but that again, like I mentioned, some of the clients I've worked with over the years, they're like, it's that's probably the best part, as well as the flexibility, is like being exposed to those different brands and seeing the cool campaigns they come with. They're not, generally I'm a small part of the cog, or a small cog in the machine, like we mentioned with Surprise Shirts. There's so many of us involved, but to be part of that effort towards growing it is that's great.
It works really well in that case. Sometimes it can be too many cooks. I've dealt with that, like with some, like if there's freelancers and if there's loads of freelancers all combined, sometimes it doesn't work. But it does work in that case. So on the flip side, what's the worst thing?
I don't know if I could give a worst thing, to be honest. That's a weird thing to say, isn't it?
You're that elated with...
I think I know, and people that are my family and people that are close to me would say they know that I'm better suited to being self-employed, I would say.
That autonomy.
Yeah. And so, although there are downsides, I guess maybe you could say, like, at times there's certain levels of uncertainty about the future. But as time goes on, you get more confident about that.
You become more used to that uncertainty always kind of being there, really, don't you? Yeah.
And generally, I try my best not to tie people into long contracts and stuff, but, ones that work for us both. So you're never that far away from potentially a big client dropping off, or not even that they might want to escape, even hopefully not. So you, in theory, you're never that far away from a bit of financial uncertainty. And they do, there's that whole thing about most businesses fail within the first year, and then most of the rest of them fail within the first 3. And but I don't know. I've got to 7, but only 3, coming up to 3 as having really committed to it, I would say, really. So I don't feel like I'm out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination. But as time goes on, that it becomes the norm, and you sort of just ride the waves to a degree.
You do.
And get less nervous about the future, more confident in what you're offering, because you refine what your offer is and get more confident in how you price things or how you pitch things.
Yeah.
And because the business, as I said, is kind of mostly grown from relationships that I've made with people, you've got that level of trust with people, and referrals from clients or from partners and stuff that sets you off on a good footing.
Yeah. Well, once everyone loses clients, and then you think, oh God, this is awful. But then
I have a tendency to take things quite personally as well. I think that is one of the things, right? So I'm quite that sort of person where even if it's not anything to do with me as a person, it might be something, ideally not something to do with that I've done that affects the business. But there's attrition, right, all the time.
Yeah.
I used to, and probably still do to an extent, take it really personally if a client was to move on for whatever reason, because I think, what could I have done better?
And that's healthy, though, isn't it?
Because I care about it. I would generally think, like, I've got testimonials from clients that say, like, it feels like Mark cares as much as we do about it, and that's part of hopefully why people choose to work with me.
That's why people buy into you, literally.
Yeah, because I do generally care. But that I guess it's a double-edged sword to a degree, because you feel like I always want to have a good relationship with the client first and foremost, and so you feel like, is it something I did? But so that's probably the thing I would say.
So the best business hack that you would recommend? So that could be like a piece of software, could be a way that you have improved the way that you work.
Yeah.
So that's quite a hard question.
It is a hard question. I don't think the word hack is necessarily the right way to go, because I don't think there are any. That hack sort of suggests a shortcut, doesn't it? And I don't think there are any really. There might be things that like speed up your process and things like that.
Yeah.
But I think the probably the best thing I've done recently is it's a whole mindset shift of the way that you run your business, I suppose. So I took on a business coach the back end of last year to try and help me just nail down what my goals are and what I want to achieve, and also what the values of the business are. And part of that is we've spoken about this before. I don't describe myself as a freelancer. I think of myself as a business owner, because I feel like, and this isn't for everyone, some people like the term because it offers that like level of flexibility. To me, it feels like it's a temporary thing. Yeah. And I like to think of what my business and consultancy sort of partnership network offers is a service that is a long-term relationship. So I don't like to think of myself as like a gun for hire necessarily.
Yeah.
So we're taking in mind the example I just used. So that's probably the key thing, as you sort of said there, about people wanting to start their own business or wanting to be a freelancer. And this won't be applicable for everyone, but for me, thinking of it as this is a business from day one, not I'm going to be a freelancer, it's a subtle shift, but it is a shift. And thinking about how to grow the business as about how do I get more clients that I can do temporary work for. So that's probably been part of it. But nailing down with my coach about what I want to achieve and getting really granular about that. And that's still a work in progress. We've been working together for about 4 months now, and that work isn't done yet. But it's given me more focus on what the strategy should be, what the values of the business are, and if those values are being challenged. That example I used before was from before I started working, but that would be an example of like, this doesn't sit well with me, so I'm not going to do it. And so, there's a 10-year plan, right? Or to take me till it's 9 years. Could take me to when I'm 45. What do I want to have achieved by then? And then we're working backwards from there, right? So what do I need to do in the next 1, 3, and 5 years to achieve those things? But they all have to be connected. Even what my goals are for this month have to be connected to what I should have done by the end of year 1. And that has to connect to year 3 and year 5. And you have to get really granular. Like if it's say, you want to put a deposit down on a new house, for example, why? And how are you going to do
like
it?
Therapy.
A little bit. It is a little bit, to be fair. And so it's not just giving yourself like I want to buy a house, quite a broad goal, isn't it? But like, okay, so what do you need to do to get there, and how are you going to do it? And so it's that whole 9-year plan is all interconnected right down to the priorities I've got next month, for example. So like I say, it's an ongoing piece of work, but that has been a huge thing for me, and that's given me having somebody to bounce those ideas off that they've got experience working with lots and lots of different people, and has given me more confidence in my like pricing my services or how I pitch things. So that's been a big thing, and it's not for everyone to take a business coach on from. I mean, I'm 7 years in or whatever, and decided to just do it now. But that has been, it's a broader shift, I guess, about how you look at your business and how you operate it.
That's great. And the last question. So, what is the biggest upcoming thing in marketing that's not AI?
Oh Lord, that's a huge.
So,
question.
What do you see as up and coming, or may not seem to up and coming to you? But what do you think that people are going to be using a lot of over the next kind of couple of years? I mean, everyone knows that everyone's like ChatGPT and AI is such a massive thing. But apart from that, like what other things, especially maybe in e-commerce?
In e-commerce, I think increasingly, and this isn't it's not a secret, but still a lot of people aren't doing it particularly well, is utilizing the data that you own most effectively. So people are obviously paying huge amounts into these ad platforms. It's only ever getting more expensive, and you'll have this battle with your clients of like it's just getting more and more expensive. So harnessing the data that you own, so the zero party data, or whatever it might be, getting information from your current customers and prospective new ones that then you can leverage, whether that's through email marketing, SMS, community building, whatever it might be. I think that's like, it's not a secret, and a lot of brands are doing this effectively, but it'd be incredible how many brands I've worked with over the long term, or even just done an audit for, about what they're doing currently and how they could improve, that there's things not being done in their ecosystem. That's why I said earlier on about the e-commerce ecosystem. Like the email marketing part of that forms a huge part of your, like, not just the campaigns, but the automations that you put in place, and how somebody might not have bought something from you for half a year, but you can use that data point to try and get them back, a win back, or whatever it might be. So I think that is a huge opportunity for growth for a lot of brands as acquisition becomes more and more challenging. More and more brands are launching all the time in almost every facet of the industry. So
I think you're right. It was weird because I've come across a company that we didn't end up working with in the end, but they were doing a lot of money through their website. We're talking like 6 figures, and they weren't doing any email marketing, and they're in e-commerce. And I was like, think of the money that's potentially on the table. And that's just one part of it. Like you got your community building and SMS and stuff,
Yeah.
and other stuff that will develop as
And these are
technology.
hard things to commit to fully, because often if it's like a founder operated business, they're great product people and have got a really good sense of marketing their product and stuff, but they're only, often these brands are small teams, or you might have an in-house marketing manager, but we know the challenges that marketing managers in-house face of having to try and do so many different tasks well, to then have real time to focus energy on growing that particular part of the ecosystem can be really challenging. But it is a great way to harness the information you've already got, and sort of whether that's introducing new product lines to people, giving people first access because they're a past customer, or just ways you can reward loyalty. Even that's a whole part, a huge part of the whole ecosystem itself, without necessarily always having to spend to acquire a new customer, because as you guys will know, like that's only ever going one way. So I would say I wouldn't say it's necessarily like the next big thing, but it is a way that people can get more out of what they've currently got. And that's a lot of the value that I try and bring with people, is like map out that ecosystem from day one, look at what we should be aiming towards, and then how do we work towards that, giving them the skills to do it as well. That's key, right? So then obviously have to have me or somebody else doing it for them. But just getting the most juice for the squeeze, I would say, is probably the thing. So what you've currently got, what you can, how it can be enhanced, what you can implement to improve conversions through the data you already have.
Amazing. Okay, well, thank you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
If anyone wants to find out more about your services, how can they?
MarcRhodes.co.uk is my website. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. And happy to have a chat with anyone that thinks I might be able to
Mark
help them
with
out.
a C.
Mark with a C. Yeah. I'm named after Mark Bolan from T-Rex.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. It's cool, isn't it?
Musical heritage.
Yeah.
Cool. On that note, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate.